Hey gang, Sean here from the Commander's Brew. You're about to watch another deck tech from us. This time we've got a very special guest. It's Odric from Innistrad, but not Midnight Hunt and not Crimson Vow. Anyway, Odric's here to give us a new deck tech. Isn't that something? Okay, again, I'm so happy to have you here with us, Odric. It's excellent.
Yes, excellent, excellent.
Yes, or yes, yes. Thank you for being here. It's great. I cannot wait to see what kind of deck you brewed up for us this week. Let's hear it. Who did you brew around?
Yes, Vorel of the Hull Clade, a Simic commander, green-blue, 1/3 mana value for a 1/4 legendary human merfolk. Love the merfolk. Green-blue tap, double the amount of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. Value, baby.
Okay, hang on a second. What?
What do you mean?
Yeah, what's this? This is Simic.
Yes, I love the value of it all.
But you're a mono white commander.
I'm also not an idiot, you buffoon. Why would I pick a mono white commander when I could play sick Simic value? And we're going over the top on value with this one. Yes, sir. Yes.
So, are you admitting that you're a bad commander?
Nah, I'm good. This is just way more fun.
Okay. So, to set the scene, I notice you've got the classic Proliferate package for a mana base. I know you're including a lot of the lands that get counters on it, so you can proliferate with them. For example, Mage's Ring Network. It taps for colorless, or you can tap to put a charge counter on it by paying 1. And the great thing about Mage's Ring Network is you can remove all the counters to get a colorless for each counter removed. This land doesn't restrict you to 1 mana per turn. So Vorel's allowed to double them. So you could, in theory, get a bunch of counters on here pretty easily between proliferating and then doubling them. So this land alone could contribute to a huge output of mana. Any Proliferate deck's also going to run Astral Cornucopia. XXX is the triple X rated magic card. There was probably some alters of this that are like, taking advantage of that, I assume. Anyway, yes, Astral Cornucopia, triple X, and it enters with that many charge counters on it, X charge counters, but we're only going to want to hit 1. We're only going to want to pay 3 to give it a 1 counter, and then we're just going to proliferate those and just profit mana. This one taps all of it taps for mana of a color of your choice as you tap it. And then Everflowing Chalice, very similar. It costs nothing, but you can multi-kick it for 2. So basically every 2 mana you put into it, you get a charge counter on it, which taps for a colorless in this case. But again, we only want to pay 2 to get it down for a single mana. This is also generally a very good magic card. Now in Commander, we're generally on to 2 mana rocks, and this one is a 2 mana tap for 1, but it can tap for more if you draw it late game and you want to do that. I'm talking in general. In a Proliferate deck, though, this is an absolute must include, and it's definitely one of the vegetables, I'd say, in the deck. You've got a newer one in here, Empowered Auto Generator. This is a 4 mana artifact. It enters tapped, which is a bit of a drawback, but when you tap it and put a charge counter on it, and then add X mana of any color, where X is the number of charge counters. So as this taps, it starts to generate more mana. But of course, we're going to be adding mana through proliferating. So this thing will be tapping for a lot, like any of our mana rocks. And of course, Voltaic Key is in the deck as well, so we can pay 1 and untap our mana rocks to get double out of them. And when they're tapping for 3, 4, 5 or more, doubling those for a single mana is enormous. And Empowered Auto Generator not only doubles them, but gives you an extra one. While we're talking doubling, let's keep in mind Vorel is the commander, so we can also double all the counters yet again. This is great. This is I can see why you're doing this. This is pretty valuable.
Okay, here's some really neat moves.
Working on a
Neat.
So, we're all about proliferating, right? So we're definitely using Thrumming Bird, 1 and a blue for a bird horror, 1/1 flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Also, Guild Pact Informant, same thing, costs 1 more, but it also hits players or planeswalkers and then proliferates. Yes. And since we're going to proliferate the most, we're looking to get Evolution Sage and Flux Channeler out. Evolution Sage is a creature, green and 2 for a 3/2 elf druid. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you proliferate. Landfall, baby. Also, Flux Channeler, 2 and a blue, 2/2 human wizard. And whenever you cast a spell, a non-creature spell, you proliferate. This includes artifacts. This is great. And since we rely heavily on these 2 creatures, we've got Worldly Tutor, single green instant, search your library for any creature card, put it on top of your library after you've shuffled it, so we guarantee to get it next draw step. Also, Chord of Calling, X, green, 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 also has Convoke for an instant. Search your library for a creature card with a mana value X or less and put it directly onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. We have no trouble getting lots of mana to get this one out, and we only need it for 6, really, to get one of those 2 creatures.
Wow, those are some pricey cards. We don't normally brew like that around here.
Well, luckily, I'm not from around here. Sean, you take the next set of neat moves.
Okay. Some of the extra things we're going to be doing with charge counters here are things like Primal Amulet. Right, this is a 4-mana artifact. It makes instants and sorceries cost 1 less. And when we get up to 4 charge counters, we get 1 every time we cast one. We may remove those counters and transform it. So we can actually proliferate this to transform right away. When it transforms on the back, it becomes a land called Primal Wellspring. And whenever we tap it for mana of any color, that mana, if it's used for an instant or sorcery, causes us to copy the instant or sorcery. So you got to balance. Like, do you want this to would you rather have cheap spells? I imagine we don't want cheaper spells with all the extra mana we're generating. We probably just want to copy our little cantrippy spells or big draw spells or something like that. Ooh, this is a classic in any Proliferate deck. Lux Cannon, 4 mana artifact. Tap, put a charge counter on it. These things are proliferatable, as we know. And then tap, remove 3 charge counters, destroy target permanent. Target permanent, that can hit lands too. So if your opponent has a majoring network that's loaded up with counters, we can get that one too. This is, especially with Voltaic Key, man, this is a fun deck. This is a great one. And I want to point out, this card used to be a little bit pricey. Lux Cannon's $150 thanks to Double Masters. So thank you, Double Masters, for bringing the cost of this card down.
Money's no object for me.
Okay.
And since we're doing proliferating, lots of it, both with landfall triggers and with flux channel, we want to cast a lot of spells. That's why we're running all the major cantrips. We're talking Opt, single blue, scry 1, draw a card. We're talking Consider, single blue, instant, look at the top card, you may put it into your graveyard, draw a card. Gitaxian Probe, it's free, just 2 life, draw a card, and some other stuff that doesn't matter. But yes, it's excellent.
And spells that ramp also contribute to Landfall Proliferate and Spell Proliferate at the same time if you've got both Flux Channeler and Evolution Sage out. So, I mean, into the north. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a Snowland card. Put it into play tapped. Shuffle your library. I'm now assuming that you have a mix of Snowlands in there, right? Sure, why not? Evolving Wilds, Cultivate, Farseek. These are all... Evolving Wilds is the land that has 2 landfall triggers. I'm thinking Rampant Growth, tutor for a regular basic, put it into play tapped. Cultivate puts 1 into play, 1 into your hand. Farseek lets us search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain, put it into the battlefield tapped. It has to be a non-forest. That's the only thing like that. Yeah, these are like getting double proliferates off these if you have everything set up, which we might because we run tutors, I guess. That sounds pretty good.
Yes, and since we've got lots of land tutoring, including some general ones, we're for sure gonna run Field of the Dead for some major zombie attacks. You know, as long as we've got 7 or more lands of different types, every landfall trigger nets us a 2/2 zombie, and this is great news for Culling Deus. It can help fuel that with the first charge counter. 2 mana for an artifact, tap, sack a creature, put a charge counter on it, and we'll proliferate it, and we'll double the counters on it, and eventually we'll pay 1 to sacrifice Culling Deus and draw cards equal to the number of charge counters, which is probably 8 or 10 whenever we need to, which takes us to some of our neatest moves. How do we finish games? Well, Sphinx Bone Wand. 7 mana, artifact. Also counts as a non-creature spell. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a charge counter on it and then do damage to any target based on the number of charge counters, where we intend to double these counters and cast many little cantrips and many little spells to look up for lands. We can finish the game by doing 12, 13 damage off of a couple of spells. It's usually enough to make a player's life total go down to below 0, so yes, not a problem. Yes.
I also noticed there's a few X spells in here. I do love X spells. That's kind of my favorite thing. And Genesis Wave. Yeah. X, green, 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 sorcery. Reveal the top X cards of your library. And if you reveal permanents of value X or less, and I have a feeling there will be no permanents that cost more than whatever X we're doing, we will definitely hit a lot of lands. A lot of lands will come into play from this, which will trigger Evolution Sage if that's out. Other proliferatables, maybe that Sphinx Bone Wand makes an appearance because of this. It seems good in this deck. It's a little pricey. It's almost $10, but that's not too bad.
And my very favorite way to win is to stick a Magistrate Scepter. Magistrate Scepter is a 3 mana artifact, and for 4 and a tap you can put a charge counter on it, which will proliferate like crazy, and eventually tap, remove 3 measly charge counters, take an extra turn after this one, and we plan to take all the turns from that point forward. Yes! This deck is fun! Yes!
Well, this does sound like quite a deck. So normally this is the part of the show where we would thank the Discord helpers, but I'm assuming you didn't have a lot of help with this deck here. You seem like the type of person who likes to do things their own way, is my hunch here.
Oh, of course not. I am a mono-white creature after all, and I love to work as a team, so thank you very much to Groove Chicken, Chiefy, Jamon, Knuckle Booper, T. Ravenous, Mr. Big Bents, and Lifter Manjaro. Yes, thank you.
And now that takes us to the budget report. Okay, so we looked up the price of this deck, and this deck comes in TCGplayer mid at $1,229.46. Odric, that's a lot of money. The lands alone are $1,090. That's well over the budget we use. I can see that the most expensive card in the deck is Tropical Island, original duel, about $740 these days. And you are running all of the fetches that can get green or blue. Each of those are between 30 and 50 bucks.
Yes, it's a fool's errand not to run all the fetches you can. It's just good value. And with 40 life total to start with, it doesn't matter at all. Gotta hit those landfall triggers as well for proliferating, so it only makes sense.
So if the lands are close to $2,000, that kind of makes the rest of the deck about $250, which isn't too bad.
Haha, nothing.
And so then at that point, the most expensive card is Worldly Tutor for 25 bucks. Okay, this is not a typical Commander's Brew deck, but Odric, I want to thank you for bringing that to us, for helping us out with that sort of deck. I think is going to be, it certainly seems like a lot of fun. And so I guess I have a question. I can't imagine you playing Commander back on Innistrad or whatever. Like, so who's in your play group? Do you get to play Commander very often?
Oh, sure, it's usually me and the other Odric, invisible stalkers in our play group. We've got Thing in the Ice when he's not in the ice. We play with one of those 3/2 Eldrazi creature tokens. Nice guy. I mean, he gets a bad rap because he's an Eldrazi, but he's very cool. He's got a Beta Lotus mint condition graded at 9.1 mint. He's cool. He drives a Ferrari. We get to play at his house, and he's got a man cave with a wet bar and everything, and we have a few drinks while we're playing over there, and the games get a little sloppy. But I mean, that's not the kind of night you want to run a deck like this with tons of triggers. We need something simple then, like that's a mono white deck then. A nice simple, not much going on, if you know what I mean.
Well, Odric, I want to thank you for joining us. Very excited to be back visiting Innistrad, even if you're not there. And thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed us, leave a comment. If you have a comment for Odric, I imagine he might be replying to some of these comments, so let us know. And stay tuned next week for another Deck Tech.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCGplayer affiliate link below.
That helps us out too. And for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.